it's very difficult to understand what's happening in that text. So if we'd read the Old Testament lesson from Exodus, we would have heard that a similar thing happened to Moses when he came down from Mount Sinai. But in the New Testament text, Peter, James, and John go with Jesus up on the mountain to pray. And while Jesus is praying, his appearance changes. And we don't know exactly what that means. It's sort of like his clothes were suddenly washed with Clorox and became all white. And his face changed color. Maybe he was in a place where he was so excited that he lost his breath. Maybe he was in a place where he was so frightened he turned white like a ghost, a sheet. We really don't know. But if we read that part before, knowing that he's just told those people who are closest to him and the crowd that's been following him that he knows what's going to happen in Jerusalem, maybe then we can see Transfiguration as a preview or a prelude or a warning of what is yet to come. In our lives, we are always asking what things mean. We're always wanting to know what is yet to come. We always want to know. We don't want to live by faith. We don't want to live in this moment. We want to know about all of those tomorrows. And I think the younger you are, the more you want to know that. As you get older, you kind of, learn to go with the flow, or so you think. And then something happens that changes the whole situation. And for me, General Conference is like that. I truly believed last week when I preached that the church was going to rise up and be the church. And we can say a lot of things like, oh, it was those Russians and those African people that made that vote go the way it went. But I'm going to tell you, there are a lot of folks in South Georgia that made that vote go the way it went. It's been an interesting week in that some of you tearfully have told me you do not think you can stay in a bigoted, hypocritical church. Some of you have told me that the only way you will stay in the United Methodist Church is that if the Judiciary Council supports the traditional church, which means that virtually nothing changes. Those horrible words in the discipline remain, and people will still be rejected for ordination. And clergy who do union weddings, marriages, ceremony, sign marriage licenses for people of the same gender will be punished. Well, I want to share with you today that I have been honored by being asked to do a union service for a same-gender couple. And it's my intent to meet with them and see if we can come to an agreement about their wedding. I want to share that publicly with all of you so that you hear that from me. I'm sure there'll be grapevine people who have interpretations of what I just said. I want you to know that I do not do this lightly, because my charge in coming here was to bring this church together as much as humanly possible. And since I know that we are not all in agreement about this, I know that there are some of you who probably will not stay to taste my husband's delicious gumbo. I don't want to be melodramatic. I don't want for you to think of this communion as the Last Supper or as the gumbo meal as the Last Supper. But I am well aware that it could be the last time that all of us are together, because everybody has to listen to their dictates of their own heart. I want you to know that if the Judiciary Council supports the traditional position and clergy perform union marriages, that any person in or outside the church can report that clergy person, and there will be what is known as a church trial. The repercussions of that trial would be that that clergy person could never be appointed again to a United Methodist Church. To which my reply is, so what? If John Wesley could preach out under the sunshine, what's good enough for John is good enough for me. Who says you have to have a church building to preach? And besides that, I could always be hired as an associate, so I want this church to really grow and grow when Hosoon comes so that you can hire me to come back as the associate. I can be an associate without an appointment. The second piece of that is these people are so stupid that they think they can break the Constitution and the law of the land, not just the church, but the law of the land, and steal my pension. Well, I'm going to tell you, if I'm going to lose my soul, it's going to be a lot more than that pension fund. So we live in a world where we have no choice but to go out by faith. We'd like to know what's going to happen tomorrow, but all we know is that Jesus is transfigured. And what that means to me is this is a preview. Yes, he set his face to Jerusalem. Yes, he's going to be crucified. But lo and behold, God gets the last scene, or the beginning scene, however you look at it. And there will be resurrection. The United Methodist Church, as I know it and I have loved it, may kill itself despite my best efforts. And if it does, God will raise up a greater church than we are now. A church in which we say we welcome all people. We mean all. What's so hard about that little three-letter word? We're not doing exceptions. My dad used to have an expression where he said, it's not so much what you say you stand for, it's what you're willing to be knocked down for. I'm willing to be knocked down. I hope that God will show me the way to keep every one of you involved in this church and happy with this church. And I hope that you will have fun along the way. Because as I told you on my first Sunday, my job is to keep Jesus smiling. Joan of Arc would say, they bound my hands, they gagged my mouth. they did not know I could still pray with my heart. I ask all of you to pray for the United Methodist Church with your hearts, and if you feel so moved, with your mouths. Amen.
Really, really